Hello, all you superhumans out there. Welcome to my front porch. I'm Sally Knapp, and we are continuing our book review of Hacking the Law of Attraction by Richard Gordon. We're focused today on chapters 5 through 9. But first, before we get started, I want to make you aware that just the other day I received permission to read excerpts out of this book from his office staff. And if they ever watch this, a big thank you to you all. I absolutely love this book, and I think Richard Gordon is brilliant in the way he brings and weaves everything together in a very bottom line, no nonsense approach to how the law of attraction actually works and how we can implement it in our life. And these chapters get to kind of the source of where we sort of get off track when we're doing the law of attraction. So many times we are, oh, it's working, it's working, it's working. Oh, it's not working. And then we get ourselves talked out of it. We go the other direction. So this will get to the heart of that. But before we get started, I want to read to you because I didn't want to read excerpts from his book until I had permission to do so. But now that I have to read just a few, that would be great. Thank you again to the people who made that decision for us. I want to read the very beginning of what Richard Gordon writes. He says, the metaphysics, and this is at the beginning of the book. Intense suffering will always, let me start again. Intense suffering always feels far too real. Yet joy and gratitude feel like a dream. Why is this so? The physical world is the illusion. Our bodies and possessions are illusions. Love is that which is real. The more love you feel, the more real you become. Manifestation is bringing something from reality into the illusion. There are countless possible futures. Any of them could manifest. Any joyous future you can imagine is more real than you are now. It has more love and less suffering. The more love you feel, the more real you become. Manifestation is not about making the future real. The new future is working to make you more real. You are not manifesting the brilliant future. The brilliant future is manifesting you. Relax and let the future love you. Let it heal and transform you. The secret is to be changed by love. The secret is to be changed by love. The more love you feel, the more real you become. The miracle you seek is you. And you know, that is so true and so profound and so deep, and yet at the same time, so incredibly easy. And yet, for the most part, I think we all tend to miss that. We get sort of caught up in the what we don't have, and then we try to bring forward the thing that is wanted, desired the most, or needed the most, usually coming from a place of fear and panic, which then takes us the other direction. So for that, this is why chapters 5 through 9 get into sort of what we're doing wrong, and it gets to the heart of it. And it shows you how to get out of it. At the end, we'll talk about some of that too. But this is for my friend out there, Dee, who watches. Thank you for watching, Dee. My loyal, lovely client and one of my favorite peoples. Anyway, she was hoping that we could get the excerpts. And I feel like this applies to all of us, but something I really want Dee to hear too. It's to accept the existence of miracles. Now, this is the going into chapter 5. Let me just surmise. Ridiculous, unfathomable, and improbable miracles. Richard Gordon writes, to accept the existence of miracles, we must conclude that we may never fully grasp the nature of this reality. There are things which are simply beyond us. How can a dust mite ever understand his home as he walks through the Library of Congress? At any rate, that really is something profound for all of us to kind of sit with for a while and digest, because in order to get from here to there, you've got to understand on a visceral level what he's saying. He gets into a little bit of a personal story that will unfold for you that aha moment. And if it's not here, that aha moment for you, it will be, I'm just sure of it for most of us, in this book. Each chapter actually speaks a little bit differently to each one of us. And I have got many of my clients now reading this book, Hacking the Law of Attraction by Richard Gordon, because I work very hard with my clients to remove the trapped emotional energies. And there's a lot that goes on. For more information, just go to my website, sallynup.com. And I don't want to get into the weeds about that. But sometimes we just have to get the trapped emotional energies that get caught in our bodies, our minds, and our spirit out of the way. Sometimes it's hard to do if you're not recognizing what's going on, or when the miracle does present itself, can you see it? It's like, can you see the forest for the trees? So he sort of highlights out with a little personal snippet, and then he goes into chapter 6. Now, that personal snippet, I was so thankful he shared that, because it hit home for me, and it took my manifesting to a new level. And it was so strange because with my clients, it was later in the book that they had that moment. So I have to say that each chapter will speak differently to each of us. Chapter 6 gets into the new model for manifestation. Richard Gordon writes, to change the core belief is to change the trajectory of your life. And that could not be more true. We delve into how we create our realities. When I'm working with my clients, one of the first things we talk about doing is not only when we're working on removing trapped emotional energies, I have them go to the homepage of the website, of my website. There's a video there that shows how I dissolve a cloud in 3 minutes. Now, people always ask me, why are you dissolving clouds exactly? And why are you telling me to do this? Because we all need to know on a visceral level that by dissolving clouds, our minds have power over matter. So it's more than just the mind. It is first comes the thought, which impresses the quantum field. Then the thought evokes an emotion, positive or negative, doesn't matter which. And then that thought and emotion, if it's fearful or love-based, when they match, that gives it fuel to, well, what some scientists would call collapsing the waveform. In this case, it is bringing into, you've made a choice on the reality you want to experience, and that is the door that's open, or the playing card in the deck that you pick up. So wherever you're placing your attention, intention, your emotions will become the most probable future for you. And the more that energy is out there, the stronger that energy is, good or bad, that is what you get more of. I think the reminder in this section of the book is, remember that the past is nothing more than a collection of memories. The future is potentiality. And where do you place your thoughts and your emotions? And he really gets into the heart of that in the next couple of chapters. And then you have to realize it's a bit like Amazon. You might place your order out there on Amazon, get on your computer, pick your thing, and then you're like, oh, it's going to come. And you know that at some point it's going to show up at your front door. Well, then Imagine if there's a delay in that. You have all this enthusiasm for that item coming to your front door, and then suddenly, when the date hits, it's supposed to be delivered, it's not there. Maybe it's misdelivered. Maybe it's not delivered yet because of an issue through the supply chain. But then we begin to think, oh, where did it go? And then we get in our own way by thinking negatively. And then that can back it out. This is just a metaphor for how it can transpire. So he kind of gets into you need to go where you feel good now, wherever you are, wherever you are. Get to a place where you're focused on the one thing, that thought that creates joy, and focus on the small thing. And then this gets back to the cloud. If I can get my clients dissolving clouds as we begin to work together, they begin to understand on a visceral level. It's not that Sally has special juju or anybody else is like, well, Richard Gordon's got it all going on, but that's not me. That demonstrates to you on a personal level that you have power. And all this book does is teach you in a much better way than I can how you can harness that in an easy to understand way of how to do it. What he gives you the inspirational stories, which is beautiful. They're very short. And then he gives you what you have to do to kind of get out of your own way. And then he gives you the steps to make it all happen. And at the end, if you still are struggling, then he gives you tips on how to overcome those blocks, which is beautiful. It's only 115 pages long, which is, to me, I love it because it's a very quick read. So he lays out in chapter 6 this new model, explaining so you understand, so we can all understand in an easy way that all futures exist and they're real. And the past does not create the present. It is the future which creates the present. So again, everything exists in potentialities. Where are your thoughts? Where is your heart? Are your thoughts and your heart matching? So if they're not matching, the example could be, I could say, hey, go out there and play the lottery. You're going to win. And then you go out and like, yeah, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. But in your heart, you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. You just canceled it out, which is why this lays it out in the way he does, is absolutely brilliant. So chapter 6 will lay it out bullet point by bullet point, what you have to look at, how healing involves resonance and entrainment, so you have a clear understanding why thoughts and emotions have to marry. Good thought, good emotion, bad thought, bad emotion. Whatever those two are is what you're going to get. So, and it's laid out very easy to read, very easy to get through. And I don't want to give away all of it because one, the agreement was to do a few snippets. But the better, broader reason is from a higher place is that each of these snippets are going to speak differently to all of us. Now, chapter 7 is the price of freedom. He writes, every self-actualizing dream is actually more real than you are now. Beautifully said. And I will read this 2 paragraphs here because I think it's so important. And it really, in my mind, for me, gets to the key to laying out some of the things that need to be fully understood in order to get our manifesting right. So I just love listening to Richard Gordon because some of the analogies he uses, it makes me giggle, but it's so right. It's kind of like, we have a telescope and we're looking at it through the wrong side. And he's so right. So here we go. This is chapter 7. on page 39, and the two paragraphs read, Richard Gordon writes, where people often go wrong when dealing with the law of attraction is they try to bring into reality the opposite of what they have now. The reason it doesn't work is because they're subconsciously holding on to vibration of hurt, anger, feelings of lack, etc. But as Carl Jung famously said, what you resist persists. If you keep trying not to feel the pain from old wounds, the pain will unfortunately keep showing up. The following method is not about healing these wounds, but rather about focusing on desires that radiate joy for you when you imagine having them fulfilled. Love and joy lift you to the very high vibration, which in turn allows your chosen future to manifest more easily. I find it important to reiterate that doesn't mean you paste a smile on your face and force yourself to feel the joy. Yeah, big no-no. Rather, you will focus on what already makes you feel joyous naturally. That's where you start. That's where you start. The beauty is that you begin to manifest your desires where you already feel happy. The result will be more of it. And nothing can be more true because as your frequency begins to go up, you will find your manifestations come quicker and quicker and quicker. Remember the cloud scenario? When I first started dissolving clouds, because I read it in a book and then challenged myself, it took a while. Honestly, the first few times I went out there and did it, the clouds were going by so, well, maybe they weren't going so fast. I was just that slow. I don't know which. But at any rate, I wasn't getting the job done. And yet this book said, oh yeah, get out there and do it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep trying. I had the tenacity to go out there and keep challenging myself to the point where I started with the little wisp clouds that I can now dissolve in like 30 to 45 seconds to the big cloud, which I put on my website on a video, dissolve a cloud in 3 minutes. And you can hear how I'm doing it. And you can see how the trees are moving and how it's going across and then how it dissolves. And I challenge you to go out there and do it. And for you naysayers out there, especially, get out of your own way and just go do it. You know, all you're doing is standing in your own way of a miracle. And maybe once you understand that you can dissolve clouds, you do it, then even this book becomes even more important to you because now you have the formula in your hand that will walk you through step by step how to create that life that you want, that you desire. And, you know, if you've got trapped emotional energies, you've got blockages, you've got misalignments, you've got all this, you can hire me to do that or somebody like me. It's great. I'd love to talk to you. I love talking about manifestations and clearing energies and making people feel emotionally better and physically better. And what's beautiful is that this you have the power with your own mind to actually begin to heal your body. It's beautiful. These things are choices, obviously. And, you know, hey, if not me, you know, maybe somebody else. Hopefully, the end of this book, the end chapter will give you tips on how to clear your own blocks. But you don't have to like, why that didn't work. Keep reaching out. Be persistent. Be persistent. Keep trying Richard's chapter 15. Go through it several times until you have your aha moment. Or call me or call somebody like me. But you don't have to stay stuck. That's the point. All right, chapter 8. He writes, choosing what to manifest. Any sufficiently unknown technology may appear to be indistinguishable from magic. So I believe he says, my apologies to Arthur C. Clarke. I'm not quite sure what he meant by that. But so true. I think going through here, he does actually answer that. Um, when hacking the law of attraction, he talks about what you don't have to do. We used to think we had to get all these visualization boards going, and then we had to say our affirmations, and we had to basically stand on one foot at 3 a.m. on a certain date, clucking like a chicken. However, I'm just using that just to be kind of funny or silly. I don't do that well. My apologies to all of you that had to deal with that sense of humor. But it goes to the heart that we overcomplicate so much of our lives, and it really is very simple. You have to think that the universe is very responsive. It's almost like a computer where you have ones and zeros, resistance and non-resistance. All he's saying is be in a place of non-resistance. And maybe if you're having negative thoughts and emotions, really it all begins with that. And then once you set it out there, just every time you have a thought about it, it's like, oh, isn't it nice? It's here with me now. Isn't it nice that I have this in my life? It feels wonderful. And then one day there it is. Doing the type of work I do, emotions are frequencies, right? Every emotion has its own frequency. Shame is the lowest frequency, and love is the highest frequency. And as you raise the frequency, the vibration, the frequency of your emotions, the more love you begin to feel, just like he says here in the book, the more the reality of the desired life will begin to unfold for you. Don't focus on the unwanted. Focus only on the wanted. Be appreciative that it's here, because the thought already, as I said earlier, is imprinted in the quantum field. Therefore, that potentiality with that thought exists now. The emotion behind it gives it the fuel. And this is where he gets to the heart of it, right here in chapter 8. Now we're going to head to chapter 9. He says, charging up a new future. Manifestation is not about working it to make a future real. Your new future will make you more real. And it goes to the heart of what I just said there. So the big thing is, and where we go with chapter 9, is that he lays out about stop worrying about how something will happen. When you are saying, well, I have to be realistic, why? In your mind, why? I cannot tell you. Here's a case in point. Just a case in point. I was worked in new construction, worked for an awesome builder in Nebraska. And I will tell you, we went out and bought a new home. And I went to Nebraska Furniture Mart. I got all this furniture. I'm like, oh, and I just went hog wild, got credit, went hog wild. Filled up my house with some nice things. And then the time came, it was like, uh-oh, that bill's coming due. And my husband's not happy with having credit card debt by any stretch. And here I had a lot of credit card debt because I filled up my house. And that was probably not the smartest thing. But anyway, so I was sitting there in my model home and I'm just like, you know what? I need to get a sale now because that bill's coming due at the end of the month. When's the end of the month? Oh my goodness, the end of the month was like 17 days away. And if you are in real estate, you will understand in most cases, even if I sold a house at that moment, it usually takes about 30 to 45 days to close the property. And that's doing a spec home. That's not doing a home from ground up, which would take, on average 9 months in those days. And so there I was. And I'm like, all right, nope, I'm not. It was all about the time The Secret came out, and my lovely coworkers, the other consultants, we had gone to Colorado. We talked about the law of attraction. Got on the phone, and they jazzed me up. Okay, Sally, this is how you do it. Remember, And it kind of gets to the heart of what I say, don't focus on the fear, focus on the wanted as if it's now. Okay. And so I sat there for like a day or two and I said, I'm going to sell this back home and it's a cash buyer. And I just sat there, isn't it nice? He's coming through my door. And sure enough, this guy comes in and he's with Union Pacific. And he goes, I need a home and I need it now. And I'm like, well, we are builders. I kind of forgot about it. And he goes, well, do you have anything completed? And I said, yeah, what's your price point? And he goes, oh, I'll take that. Can we go take a look at it? Sounds like what I'm looking for. Okay. So we walked down the street into the home. And he goes, yeah, this is what I want. This will work. Okay. Um, all right. So, it's still going to take, who's your lender? He goes, oh, no, I'm a cash buyer. Sweet. And so there we are. We had that thing closed and my commission check in time, enough to cover my credit card debt for my purchase on time. So if I had been stuck in worrying about, well, I have to be realistic, that likely maybe they're gonna come, maybe not. But the fact that I put into practice the law of attraction, unbeknownst to me, just as Richard Gordon laid out, I don't know that it would have happened, or it happened as well and beautifully as it was. I mean, it was one of the easiest sales I ever had in new construction. It was 17 minutes from the time we walked in the door to the time we were signing papers, that fast. I've had closings that are closed that took up to 2 years, but that's another story for another day. But just to highlight for you, this is what he's talking about in chapter 9. Don't worry about how it'll happen. And for heaven's sakes, remember, you can have enthusiasm for something. And remember, enthusiasm's a wonderful thing until it doesn't hit maybe your time marker that you've got in the subconscious of your mind and it doesn't happen. There's that fine line where it can begin to tip you in a direction you don't want to go. Chapter 9 will walk you through that. So relax and let the future heal you. And automatically, without me even knowing that, when I read chapter 9, I went to that place and remembered that event, Raleigh, that took place close to, I don't know, 15 years now. It was that long ago. But that's what that highlight is. Now, hopefully I'll be able to read a few more excerpts out of the rest of the book. We are actually going to go through chapter 10 to the end of the book in the next video. The point is, I recommend, and I would love for the discussion, how and what things that you find that you like in this book, what chapters speak to you. I would love to hear back from you. I love this discussion of Hacking the Law of Attraction by Richard Gordon. So yeah, leave a comment, share this video if you don't mind. And if you are not a subscriber, I hope you subscribe to my channel, because we're going to be talking about some amazing things in the future. We're going to go beyond this. We're going to start talking about the miracles of consciousness. And also, when I talk about igniting the superhuman in you, I mean that with all my heart, because I'm 62 years old. 62. I don't have a lot of time to get this message out. It took me a decade to figure all this out. And instead of you spending a decade, I would love it if you would just join me and let's have a discussion, especially if you're a naysayer. Why not give it a try? Why not? Why not pick up the book by Richard Gordon and see, there it is. Challenge yourself. Go out and dissolve clouds. Why not try to ignite the superhuman in you? That way, when you understand on a visceral level, you now have power and authority over your own life. And doesn't that feel amazing? You talk about freedom. That's taken it to a whole new level. Thank you for watching. And again, I look forward to hearing or seeing your comments. If you would like an appointment with me, go to sallyknop.com. Super easy to schedule an appointment. All kinds of things we can talk about. In the meantime, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone who does that. Let's walk together, share our stories, and let's get going. Let's build the momentum. Take care for now. Bye.